You are listening to I Am Interchange.
I am Interchange.
I am Interchange.
I am Interchange.
Fostering curiosity, education, and empathy by exploring the controversial and the provocative.
I am Interchange.
Bozeman native Sheyne Lieber has seen the impact of the unfettered growth for which baby boomers are synonymous on the identity of his hometown, and he's not sold on the resulting prosperity. The gross inflation of property values, flux of disposable wealth, and added burden on local natural resources are just a couple of the undesirables he's seen since Bozeman's boring atmosphere became the third fastest growing economy in the country. The 20-year-old definitely feels the nature of his Generation Z's general decline in giving-a-shitness, but as he asserts, at a certain point, you just have to rebound. I'm Tate Chamberlin, and in this podcast, my guest Sheyne Lieber and I attempt to reconcile the assumptions and concerns, absolutes and possibilities surrounding baby boomers' social, political, and economic legacy and its impact on generations to come. Welcome to I Am Interchange. I'm your host, Tate Chamberlin. I'm sitting with Sheyne Lieber, who is our Gen Z panelist on our upcoming event, OK Boomer. How's it going, Sheyne?
Howdy, it's going all right.
We're up for a lively event. Glad to have you on it. So you grew up in Montana.
I did.
What was life like, and how has the growth of society and the town been while you've been here?
Like the growth of Bozeman itself?
Yeah.
It was always sort of like this boring kind of atmosphere. Like, Bozeman's always just sort of a dirty kind of vibe, like it's Bozeman. But the acceleration of growth that this town has seen is nuts. It's off the charts. Like, I think that we were, for a while, like per capita, like third overall in the US of A.
So you've kind of witnessed it growing at a slow level, and then maybe recently, it's just kind of...
It's taken off.
So you went to grade school, middle school, high school, and now you're in college?
Yes.
What are you studying in college?
Political science and philosophy.
How does that work together for you?
Political science is great because you learn how people work. And philosophy is great because my big thing is I just love people. I like looking at people, I like talking to people, I like being around them. And philosophy works because you can get inside of people's heads. You can get down to like, okay, why did they do this very simple thing? And political science is great because you can apply it to something. Because for a while I was just a philosophy major without any discernible life direction. And then I picked up that political science major, just sort of kind of on a whim, but I love it.
So you started in philosophy, and it's pretty heady and really interesting,
yeah.
But you needed some way to apply it, and that's where political science came in.
Yeah, and growing up too, like I could never shut up about politics. I don't know why, but like I just love talking about it, and I love seeing how people work up there, and things that work well and things that don't work well, and how people respond to those things is really interesting to me.
Do you have a side project that kind of encourages that side of you?
I don't know. I've kind of like got like this weird. The past couple months, I've gone from like pretty conservative to radically liberal.
The past couple months, you've
yes.
gone from conservative to liberal.
Yes.
Have you always been conservative?
Yes, I had actually, and like it was just getting like more and more and more conservative until I got to a certain point where I started listening to left opinions, and I realized like what you're saying when you say the wealth inequality in America isn't because of healthcare or capitalism isn't the problem. It's that it's the Jews or something like that. That's where you get to, ultimately, with going down the right.
Is your family conservative? Did you grow up in that?
My family is nothing. They specifically encouraged me to be a free thinker.
And so you were, and you became a conservative. And how long had you practiced it?
I wouldn't say practice it, but like, I don't know. It wasn't. It started off as something like pretty casual. Like I don't think it ever got to a place where it was like a legitimate problem. But like just sort of like capitalism's a good thing. Yeah, but it's just sort of gone into like being open to other ideas.
Would you have voted for Donald Trump?
Then yes. Now no.
What has his effect in being president had on your life?
Made it a hell of a lot more interesting.
So it made your life more interesting, and it made you pivot to liberalism.
Yeah, and like It was him going up there and people and him saying stuff like, because Republicans always like kind of they get around things. Like, let's take immigration. What Republicans and most politicians are doing with the things that they talk about. With immigrants, they say something like, Mitch McConnell, any other boring, lame Southern Republican would say something like, well, we can't have immigrants in here because, it's not legal or something like that. But Donald Trump got up there and said something along the lines of, well, they're rapists and drugs, and they're bringing drugs, and they're rapists, and they're horrible people, so we can't have them here.
That was at the beginning of his campaign. Where you said you would have voted
paraphrasing,
for him.
Completely paraphrasing. Yeah. But what that spoke to in my own 16, 15-year-old mind was something that was like, this guy's up there and speaking the truth. That's not the truth. That's just being racist and a bigot and kind of a Nazi and inspiring a lot of people to think like that and normalize that. And now I think that it's really good to get out there after all the crazy shit that's been normalized now to say this is not normal.
If that wasn't normal, you mentioned a minute ago that you probably would have voted for him at his first campaign. But he talked like that as he announced his running.
Yeah. There was a fun element to it.
Oh, so it was entertaining.
Tapped into that. It was entertaining.
You didn't think
it was entertaining to watch politics for the first time ever.
Maybe you didn't take it seriously?
No.
He was a contender?
No way. Nobody did. I don't even think he did.
Yeah. What generation are your parents?
Boomers. They are boomers. No, cripe. No, they're 50. So sorry. They're 50s. What is that? Boomer, Gen X, somewhere in there.
They're Gen X.
Okay.
And what do they do for work?
My dad is an acupuncturist, Sheyne Lieber. This is a shout out. He's been doing that forever. Yeah, he's sending me to college, so there's that. And he's always been sort of like, fuck Western medicine, and like, kind of. I think that's where I picked up on that, is like that push away what's normal, not push away but question it.
So your dad's an acupuncturist,
Yes.
and what does your mom do?
My mom helps my dad, keeps him in line, and she does a damn good job at it.
Do you know a lot about Gen X, your parents' generation?
Not really. You don't hear them get talked about a lot.
What do you think that their generation did well?
I want to say work. I want to say they probably, just looking at the way the economy went, they did work well. They had a lot of good ideas. They probably got, most of those people who are like the young and not young, but 30s, 40s they're solid in the industry. They're there, they exist, and they have a presence.
Is there anything that they didn't do so well?
They got comfortable, and I think that's they might have passed the torch down from that generation to millennials, who are way too comfortable in their shitty lives, and it started that whole thing. Yeah, I said it.
We'll get to the different generations. I want to talk to you more about each generation. What's kind of the first thought that goes through your mind when you hear "Okay, Boomer"?
I thought it was so stupid at first. I love it. I'm just like, yes.
You thought it
Approve.
was stupid at first. When was the first time you heard it?
Twitter.
What do you think about when you hear it?
Just pushing away the older generation. And I might be just young and stupid and idealist, but like that sounds great to me. I love that.
To push the older generation
Yes,
away.
to say fuck you. You don't have any control over my beliefs. I'm not going to let you be proud of me on your own terms. That vibe.
Tell me more about the baby boomers.
When you have one thing that's really good for a really long time, which is what they had, baby boomers, you get used to it, you normalize it, and you make sure that works. They were fed for like 10 years consistently, capitalism good, socialism, communism bad, just very simply. And there was no like up for debate. Like you couldn't like argue for socialism. It was just, it doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. It's never going to work. Look at Russia. They're horrible. And yeah, Russia kind of sucks, but that whole thing kind of just got cemented into them. And that's what they knew was truth, and passed it onto Gen X, onto millennials. On I think it's starting to kind of feather out
onto you,
onto us. Yeah. Cause there's a lot of socialists in this generation.
Democratic socialists. What do the baby boomers have anything to be proud of?
I mean, good for them for being able to lock down an ideal, lock down a way of life that to them made sense, I think that's good. They believed in something. I will give the older generations credit on their workability because that's gone away recently with a lot of just sitting inside and, angrily posting on Twitter about how much you hate the government instead of actually going out and doing anything. Because back then, they just protested. Like, no matter, like... And that's what I like seeing about, like, these European countries, like...
The baby boomers protested. What do you think the 60s were?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. But it was less of a genuine protest and more of just, like, a thing you did.
I don't know if they would feel the same way.
Really?
Tom was a Vietnam War vet, and we'll get to that.
Okay. Sorry, Tom.
No.
For my ignorant opinion.
We're gonna bring it up. We're gonna bring it up in person.
Okay. But like, my point with that is that they protested, and there was, like, this huge movement that everybody was doing. Everybody. And then they just sort of integrated back into society with no problem. And, like, they still were able to carry, like, these kind of... I mean, some of them never got out of it, obviously, but they were still able to be patriots and believe in America and not say, fuck the government constantly. I think that's commendable, too, honestly. Being able to say, I hate my government, but I'm going to keep working because I care about my society around me.
Couldn't any generation feel that way?
Yeah.
I'm a millennial. I want to talk more about your feeling towards millennials.
All right. Millennials are, maybe it's because I got some, Gen X parents, but they're constantly saying millennials suck. They're like, millennials can't go outside. All they're doing is just being lazy pieces of crap. And yeah, they are. I do think like
you think more so than Gen Z?
The general vibe of millennials is just like whatever. I'm just gonna let the things go and just kind of keep living my life because this is just sort of the way it is. Like it's not that they're irrelevant. Like they exist. They're a good part of this population, but I don't know. I just don't see a lot of them getting in the guts of it.
Getting in the guts of what?
Of anything. Just of really getting into anything, of really following whatever it is that they love. Yeah, no, there's no... It's like the decline of, like, putting love into things.
Who wore it best, Gen X or the millennials?
Gen X.
And then millennials came along, and they're kind of blasé and don't give a shit about anything. How about Gen Z?
It just keeps going. I think that they, like... It's just sort of like a general decline of like just giving a shitness.
Now you give even less of a shit than millennials do?
Hypothetically, yes. I like to think I don't. I like to think I give a lot of shits.
But you don't.
I do. Just because I'm a Gen Z doesn't mean that like we're stereotyping.
Well,
you
compartmentalize millennials.
Absolutely.
Pretty well. So
yeah.
So you're saying though that Gen Z also carries the lazy characteristics, but you're the exception?
Not me specifically. I mean, you can be your own person, but like if we're gonna stereotype, which we are, that's what I'm saying. And I think that like it's just hit this point where we're just like at a certain point you can't keep going on this don't give a shitness. Like at a certain point you gotta rebound and go back up. And I think that we're starting to become that generation. I mean, really, like I remember being in high school and we would always have like these little debates and these little talks. And one thing that we could all seemingly agree on is that when it comes to like global warming or any of this other stuff, we were like the last shot. We are the last shot at making this planet, or I'm sorry, not this planet, us saving our own ass. We're the last chance to save our own ass because the planet's gonna be fine. I mean, come on, it's been around for like a couple billion years.
Planet will be fine, but humans might not.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's my take.
So, what's your generation good at then?
Understanding the value of education.
I mean, you could say that about any generation, couldn't you?
I've heard a lot of boomers say you should just go to trade school, and just,
over college.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
I thought that this was a capitalist country where I can go and do anything I wanted, and make money off of anything I wanted, Mr. Boomer.
Did a boomer actually tell you that?
Yes.
Were you offended?
I said, fuck you. No, I'm not going to go to trade school. I don't want to work. I'm sorry. I just don't want to work construction for the rest of my life. And I don't think construction wants me to work for the rest of my life.
Oh, there's tons of trades that aren't construction.
But I don't want to do that kind of thing with my hands. This is what I'm good at. This is what I feel like doing. I should be able to have a choice in what I want to do.
What could Gen Z do better at?
Mobilizing.
Like
being able to call out the bullshit of our older generations. Like for example, like with this whole coronavirus thing, why were the colleges for a disease that didn't affect specifically us, doesn't kill, doesn't harm us, we can still carry it, sure. Why were the colleges in the time of an economic recession and a global pandemic the first thing to close?
Because groups of people is...
Well, then why wouldn't they close the high schools? Why wouldn't they close elementary schools first? Why wouldn't they close food first? They closed the colleges first. And I think, this is just my theory, I could be crazy, and I probably am, but my theory is that they don't want young people talking. And that's happened all throughout history. I can't cite anything specific, and I'm not, this is an original thought. I got this from Michael Reedy, one of my old professors. He says to us on the first day, whenever shit starts to hit the fan, they close the colleges first. Because young people are very good at mobilizing. They're very good at pointing at one person saying, you did this wrong, and doing something about it. Most protests have always started with young people.
In college.
Yes, where free thought and free speech is completely allowed.
So there's a conspiracy to shut down the colleges first in this pandemic in order to shut down the mobilization of the younger generations fighting back.
I wouldn't call it a conspiracy, but yeah.
I mean, some conspiracies are true.
Yeah, sure, true, yeah.
This topic, Okay Boomer, is kind of about inheritance and what the younger generations will get from the older generations as they pass on. There's an estimated $68 trillion that's going to be passed from baby boomers as well as the silent generation, making millennials the wealthiest generation ever. And transfers of wealth have always happened. What's different this time?
I've lived in Bozeman for a long time. I've seen property sell. I've seen the way it sells, and I've seen the way it moves. It's very interesting. Let's take something for example. Okay, this little farmland out here, even the one that you're living on, was at one point 20 years ago worth maybe 100,000, maybe a couple 100,000. Now it is worth millions and millions and millions of dollars because people want to buy it and get all their shit on it as soon as they can because that's where everything's moving.
Everything's moving to farmland.
Yes, and that farmland's got to sell. But what's interesting about it is that the boomers aren't letting it go because it's worth a lot of money. It's just exponentially gaining cost. And I'm not an expert, and the boomers sometimes never even sell it. And that happens a lot.
So, I mean, what if they didn't want to sell it because they didn't want it to get built on?
Well, here's the thing. So they could pass it down to their younger generation, right? That's the idea. That land will then become, they'll die. Boomers are going to die soon, creating the transfer, and that's going to go on to the younger generation. But the thing about that is that for the younger generation for example, if my parents owned a bunch of farmland, which they don't, if they own a bunch of farmland, I would have to, and they died. I'm living in, I don't know, Chicago. And I have to go back and take care of some stupid fucking property in Bozeman, Montana that I don't care about that's worth a couple million, but I'm going to have to split with me and my sister. So I'm just going to sell it or something else like that. But it's not that it's like, oh, well, it's just going to trickle down, right?
Well, it did. I mean, if that were the case, then you would have gotten their land and reaped the benefits from selling it.
Right, but who owns that land is incredibly wealthy. In this hypothetical situation, not even who got sold to, who owned it is now incredibly wealthy.
Well, right, yeah. I mean, that transfer is going to create a really wealthy generation.
But it's not that it's a free market transfer. They're choosing where the wealth goes. It goes into my pocket.
So the wealth transfer is going to go to families, not get dispersed.
Yeah. So on a bigger scale, it's just going to go from the daddy of a 1%er into the 1%er's pocket, and then it's just going to stay there because they're not going to want to move it. It's a couple $1,000,000. Hell yeah, take that.
So baby boomers, when they were the same age as millennials, they held 21% of the nation's wealth, and now that millennials are the same age, they own 3% of the country's wealth. Not having earned it, but getting all this money, do you think that younger generations know how to manage that kind of money?
No, and maybe that's what a recession is. Maybe that's what like just a culture, little because the culture's going to change with it too, and culture's huge for money.
Culture changes as this moves. So I guess.
So it's going to be spent on different things.
Well, it's funny because when I think about baby boomers and just anybody who starts with nothing and then has something, they want to protect it.
Which is
there something wrong with that?
Yes.
There's something wrong with protecting what you have?
Absolutely.
What's wrong? What's wrong with like protecting your house?
Well, I mean, on paper, it doesn't, like, that doesn't sound horrible. But the thing is that if we are going to thrive as a country, the guys who made the shit, who made capitalism, said, Adam Smith, can't quote the book, but...
There's no such thing as a free lunch.
Exactly. Yes, there's no such thing as a free lunch. But, like, that if capitalism is to work, there's two things that need to work. Number one, there has to be an assumption that the future is going to be better. Number two, the wealth has to be reinvested. The property has to be sold. It has to keep moving. And it has to just go out, not to a specific person's pocket, but in an outward motion, if that makes any sense.
How would you do that? How would you manage that? Well, if you were in charge of this great wealth transfer, how would you manage it?
I would probably start investing in stock markets. Isn't
that capitalism? What you just
absolutely
bagged?
Absolutely, but yeah, no, but like.
So you're falling into the same trap of wanting more and protecting it and growing.
Wanting more, but also being willing to sell what I had and to move forward from that.
So what you had for something else.
Yes.
Would you want to protect it after you got it?
Yeah, and then I move on to the next thing.
But you'd want to protect what you earned.
Yeah, but there's a difference there. There's a difference between just clutching onto something and never letting it go, as opposed to just letting go of the property, accepting that it was a thing of the past, and taking that money and trying to put it back into the market.
You earned all this money by putting it back into the market. When is the appropriate time for you to let it go?
I mean, I don't think it's a specific thing. I really don't.
I mean, wouldn't you want to be...
I don't know if that's a tangible thing.
I mean, wouldn't you want to be comfortable in your life and not worry about food and travel and take care of your family? And then by the end of it all, you're going to be dead, so then it can be wherever. But you'd want to hold on.
That's an existential question.
But you'd want to hold on to it until you were done with it.
Yeah, but then again, it like... Fuck, man, I don't know. If I got $5 million of property passed down to me, I would probably say, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and put like the rest of my life kind of like on hold a little bit. Let's see what I can do with this money. Because this is really cool that I just got $2.5 million. Let's see what I can turn this into.
Is there income inequality?
Yes. Yes, absolutely there is. It's absurd. What do you mean income inequality? Like between the 1% and the 99% and the rest of the nation? Or just like between women and men, or
just poke it around?
Just a vague question. All right, yeah, I think so. Specifically between 1% and 99% of this country. The way I see it, it's just like what I was talking about earlier. That's money that's not being moved again. Like, here you go. Here's a stat for you. I think it was like 1 million seconds is like 2 days, but 1 billion seconds is, I think it's like a couple years. There's a huge difference between 1 million and 1 billion. Obviously, you don't have to be a math guy for that. I don't see why Jeff Bezos should be allowed to make $50 billion or anything even beyond that. I don't see why you should be able to make $1 billion. What is worth $1 billion? How are you worth $1 billion? That's absurd.
If you came up with a great idea and made $1 billion, how would you?
I would keep on trying to make great ideas and keep on trying to spend that money.
Would you give it away?
What do you mean give it away? Like give it to charity?
Would you give it away?
Yes.
Would you give it away because of social pressure telling you not to be a billionaire?
Oh, well, probably the first thing I'd do. I mean, I'm not to say I'm a saint, but like I'd probably like try to help out my parents, like pay off their mortgage, get them into a nice house, make sure they don't have to work another day in their lives because they're my parents. I feel like I owe them that much. Again, hypothetically.
What do you think of the Green New Deal? Do you know a lot about it?
Kinda. Fuck coal. It needs to go. If we're going to have any, I mean, and it's even with this whole thing, coronavirus thing going on, what they're not talking about is like the water in Venice has never been clearer. It is beautiful. It's amazing what people not going outside is doing to this planet. It's beautiful. Coal needs to go, and in place of that needs to come green energy. and it's going to be a little bit extreme. It's going to be pretty intense. And things might suck for a bit, but I think that we should take this little recession that we're going into and use it as an opportunity to start clean, start over again.
Should there have been a bailout? Should there be should there be a bailout for this recession?
Because that's not free market. If we're really living in a free, like, we have a Republican openly practicing socialism.
Well, I mean, Bush bailed out the market, then Obama bailed out the market.
Right.
Trump is bailing it out.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of people in the service industry and people who pay rent who aren't going to be able to pay rent, and that's going to trigger people who own the houses who are collecting rent to be late on their mortgages.
Mm-hmm.
Are you saying not to do anything and just to let the damage be done and heal normally?
If it was really a free market, that's what would happen. But it's not. We're halfway between capitalism and socialism. And we just act like we're absolutely capitalist and we're not socialist at all. This is like what's going through the Senate right now is like with that whole $1,000 basic income thing for our boy Andrew Yang. From our boy Andrew Yang.
Is he your boy? Did you like him?
I love Andrew Yang.
Who's your favorite?
Bernie Sanders.
Okay.
Bernie Sanders, absolutely. He gets me going. I don't know why, but
so I mean, in a way,
Speaks to
he has a bailout plan for free college, letting go of
Absolutely.
student debt.
well, I'm not gonna. Okay.
Isn't that some sort of bailout?
Well, if I'm gonna sit here and bag on capitalism, I'm just gonna say.
I mean, you haven't entirely bagged on capitalism.
Well, yeah, okay, well, I will. But don't, like, I'm not going to sit here and act like I hate capitalism or I hate socialism or I think that one's better than the other.
I mean, you did say fuck capitalism.
Yeah, fuck capitalism. That is true. But they need to work together. If they're going to work, like, capitalism as it is, doesn't work. Socialism as it is, doesn't work. Because when capitalism comes around and you got this free market going and people are sitting there, eating rats in the streets, free market capitalism didn't work so well, did it? Or when Jeff Bezos is literally sitting up there absorbing $30 trillion worth of wealth that's floating around right now, free market capitalism didn't work so well now, did it? And, on the other hand, socialism would mean that for $30 trillion, every single family could have at least, and I can't cite my sources on this one, but I'm pretty sure it's true, $500,000 in their pocket.
Do you care about the environment?
I don't think that anyone actually cares about the environment. I think that they care about us. I don't think that.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. I don't know. Like, just like on like a, for myself level, like also because I don't know, I don't want to feel like I screwed over past generations or future generations by like, making like a super diesel engine or something like that. Like I just couldn't do that in good conscience. I'm also not smart enough to do that. I care about our environment, and I like seeing a green forest. I like seeing the birds out.
You seem kind of reluctant at the beginning of that.
Well, yeah, but like in the sense that I think that for environment, like most environmentalists don't care about the planet, they care about us, they care about the people in it because the Earth is fine. It's gonna be fine. It's been around for, like I said earlier, billions of years. I'm a broken record now.
I hosted a debate called Coal Town, and I had a woman named Lori Shaw who started an organization called Coal Strip United. They produce a ton of coal, but there's a town around it, and in a dying community, they just got sued by the Sierra Club and are starting to have to get to close their mines. And the town, I think, acknowledges that it's maybe not dying but shrinking because coal is their almost sole financial system. And there's a lot of people who have their entire livelihoods in their houses and just their way of life. And now that coal is potentially on its way out, they're losing their doctor and they're not able to sell their houses. And so they're kind of stuck in this community that they can't get out of. And that's creating this really deep divide in the separating from coal dependency to renewable energy. What do you have to say to someone that's in that experience?
I would say it sucks. That sucks. And I'm really sorry that's happening, but like boomer, times are changing. It's just the way it is. It's not, and I think that they should be bailed out. Absolutely. I think that they should, be allowed to up and move somewhere else.
You think they should be bailed out?
Yes, absolutely.
You were just bagging bailouts.
Was I?
Yeah.
Yeah, but okay, hypothetically. Well, back there, I was saying, like, okay, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. I probably articulated it horribly, but that's not it.
Explain when a bailout is okay
Okay.
and when it's not.
I think that I just think that I see a lot of conservatives who are supporting a Republican president, endorsing socialism and pushing socialism through is incredibly hypocritical, especially if you say that, okay, we don't want any government in. But those same conservatives would say you need to bail out the coal people. It's just really murky. It's not anything like actually tangible. You can't have a strict moral set when you're approaching these situations because these are human lives and like things are going to change from person to person to person.
There's a lot of different variables.
Yes. And like just because they're working for the coal industry doesn't mean they're evil by any means. They're just people trying to make it. I guess that's what I was trying to say.
So they should be bailed out but not rely on coal for their income anymore?
No, absolutely not. They should not be looking to coal for their answers anymore. They got to be looking on something different. I'm sorry. But unless coal has like this weird cultural significance for you.
Coal is what is probably heating your house right now.
Probably. I wish it wasn't, but like, do you not like having homeless people? But like, you know, they shouldn't be homeless.
Do I like having homeless people around, or do I just not like homelessness?
Yeah, homelessness sucks, right? You gonna go build the houses for them then?
I don't know.
No, you can't. You can't just go out and build a bunch of houses for homeless people. There's so many things that you want to solve, but you can't because one person can't do it. And because it takes money, it takes government, it takes all this other stupid bureaucracy shit.
So it takes money. Is there a climate crisis?
I don't know. I actually don't know. Corona is
climate crisis.
No, but like I think that Corona could be like starting to, if this thing goes on for long enough, it could balance things out a little bit because nobody wants to go outside. Humans aren't interacting with the world, and it's making the climate better. Up until this point, are we having a climate crisis? Yes. Yes, we are.
Will capitalism solve it?
The kind of capitalism we have now with lots of strict rules and saying like what you can and cannot do will be the answer to it, yes. And those things are trying to reduce coal. I mean, like coal is always going to have a place. It shouldn't be, this isn't a black and white thing. It just shouldn't be everything that we're running on. Because at one point, there was no other way to get your energy other than coal.
It's not everything. There's natural gas, there's solar, there's wind.
Yeah.
Maybe not as much as we want right now.
Yeah.
I mean, even if the United States does go completely energy independent on renewable energy, Colstrip still sells most of their coal to China, Japan, and a lot of Asian countries. Should national emergencies be bailed out by the government or by capitalism?
I would say that's a question that doesn't exist. In my opinion, capitalism doesn't actually exist anymore. Free, open capitalism doesn't exist.
You think there's too many rules?
I don't think there's too many rules. I think that's just the way it is.
Well, define capitalism.
You pull yourself up by the bootstraps and you just go out, and if you work hard enough, you will succeed in your community, town, or throughout the country.
You don't believe
or
that?
Market. No. And it's kind of a race thing. It kind of starts to get like, okay, why do I not see any, like, I mean, back in the day when things really were capitalist, even like more capitalist than they are now. Like, I'm talking before FDR. There's no women who were, you know, being put in office or succeeding at CEOs of any companies. There was no black people as CEOs of companies or in government. You had to.
But I mean, now there are.
Yeah, now there are.
So are you saying? That
but it's still not proportional.
Are you saying because of that capitalism isn't the same?
It goes against the idea of like no matter what the American dream is and what so many people have been sold on is like no matter who you are.
That does matter if you are colored or in a minority.
Yes.
How about you personally? Does capitalism exist in your world?
For me, yes, absolutely. I mean, like, yeah, no, I'm in college. I gotta work hard, and like I have to. No, yeah, capitalism exists in my life.
So the current pandemic, coronavirus, should this national emergency be bailed out by the government or by capitalism?
I mean, yeah, I think it should be bailed out by the. That's a tough question. I think it's just a little bit of both. I really do.
A little bit of both.
I'm sorry to like kind of keep on playing like these middle of the street answers, but like
it can be a little bit of both. I mean, if you ask me, I don't know.
I think that if you get that, the government coming in and bailing everything out and paying off all the industries, it's just gonna push it farther back because that's just deficit money. Unless it's coming from the Federal Reserve, who just injected $1.5 trillion into the stock market last week, no problem. It's just pushing off the inevitable.
Of actually dealing with it and
Yeah.
climbing out of it.
Because I think all of this is it's not. I'll probably get torched for this. It's not coronavirus itself. It's symptoms of an already kind of starting to break system.
So, okay, let's get back to the climate crisis. Should the climate crisis be bailed out by government or by capitalism?
Government, absolutely. Capitalism doesn't care about the climate. Capitalism doesn't care about that. It just cares about putting money in your pocket.
Capitalism cares about climate.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, look at companies like Tesla and all of the companies that are providing green energy and green.
Yeah, it costs like $50 million to buy a car. Or it doesn't cost that absurd of a number, but it costs a lot of money to buy a Tesla car.
But there's a lot of eco-friendly companies that rely on capitalism to do research and create better products.
Okay, I mean they're not Chevy, they're not Ford, they're not Exxon, they're not any insert big American company name here. It's not that it's their fault specifically. It's that they're just doing what they're doing. They exist because what they were doing worked a while ago.
They're mandated to make money for their shareholders.
Yeah, and they should. Maybe they should tone it down and that's where I think the government should step in. Is say, okay, you can't be making like these kinds of cars or whatever, or of these kinds of like diesel, gas, crazy, nutty trucks.
So regulation. So government could add regulation to capitalism.
Absolutely.
Should younger generations have kids?
Philosophically, like on a deeper philosophical level.
How do you personally feel about having kids?
Oh Christ, they seem annoying. I don't know. I'm 20. I don't really have a lot of opinions on having. I really don't want kids right now. Later, maybe, but like even then, it's just why do I want to bring another human into my life? Like that's my view on it. Why do I want like I'm good with me. I like me. I like hanging out with me. I'm cool.
So you're just gonna be single?
Yeah, I guess. I don't really care. It's not an issue to me. I think there's bigger things to tackle. Like, get that American dream or whatever. Do what you need to do. Maybe have kids.
What's the American dream for you?
Oh man, this could be a really bad answer. Tearing something up. I want to see change. I want to see things change. I'm not sure particularly how, but I want to stop seeing people live in lies and I want to see people stop being so miserable because I feel like a lot of people are miserable. I want to be able to go and I don't know. I don't think I have an American dream. I want to do something more than just sit in a room and smoke pot or smoke cigarettes all day.
Is that what you do?
Yeah, definitely.
Your mom's listening to this.
Yeah, sorry, Mom. No.
What is your life going to be like in 20 years?
For me, I don't know. I've always wanted to be an actor.
So you're going to be an actor.
Hopefully.
What is your house like? Where are you?
Modest, not crazy, but like cool antique stuff.
Do you believe that older generations are leaving the world better than they found it?
No, because if you want to live for yourself, that means hurting other people. And that's just what sucks about existence.
Do you have an example of that?
Making a spot on a team. You get that spot and like you deserved it, but somebody else wanted that spot too, and they didn't get it. And it's nothing personal. It's just that's the way it is. That's human nature. It's not a bad thing necessarily. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, but do you believe that the older generations are leaving a better world than when they found it?
No, because they don't have a choice in it. That's just the way it is. I think it should be like a damage control kind of thing. I think it should be like, all right, have that in the back of your head when making a decision. Like you can't tell me that whoever, I don't know who it was, but whoever it was that decided to put a giant fucking hole into the ground of Butte in the Berkeley pit. You tell me that they were thinking of me, that they were thinking of any of us.
Do you have copper in your life?
Electricity, yeah.
So they were thinking about you having electricity.
No, they weren't. No, they weren't because they sold that copper not to make society or the rest of the world better, but they were like, I can make some money off this.
Yeah, but you're talking about that fusion of social good and capitalism. So if they didn't have that goal of providing electricity for everyone, then they wouldn't have been successful.
And so, but if he really cared about it, what he would have done is if he really cared about other people, he would have taken all that money and invested them into random charities.
How do you know they did? I mean, the barons, the robber barons invested a ton of money into...
Did they invest all their money?
I'm sure
Then that's not-
some of them might have and some of them didn't.
I mean, it's not, they're not, no, they're just not. That's not how it works.
What advice do you have for younger generations?
Question. Ask so many questions. Ask as many questions as Tate does.
What about this topic gets your mind going the most?
First of all, I hate this idea of Democrats and Republicans, that we can only be broken down into two different political ideologies. I think there should be way more than that. That being said, I'm excited to see a generation who is going to be able to hopefully unify under feeling like they kind of got the short end of the stick. Despite there being whatever the biggest wallet transfer ever, it's not going to go to those who need it. It's not going to go to anyone who actually wants that money. It's just going to go to people who it's not that they don't deserve it, and it's because I don't think anyone deserves anything, but it's that they don't need it. They don't need it. They don't need that much money.
Sheyne Lieber, can't wait to get in the ring with you on May 7th, wherever that might be under the coronavirus protection.
Show up in hazmat suits if you have to.
As with most things, the good seems to be married to the bad, the positive only visible in relief. Coronavirus, in all its horrifying glory, has given the world a rare glimpse of what might be possible if people immediately and decisively reduce their carbon footprint, one non-essential trip at a time. It's amazing what people not going outside is doing to the planet, remarks Lieber. It's beautiful. Maybe the impending recession and all the change and arguable economic chaos to come, with the largest transfer of wealth in U.S. history is, as he hopes, an opportunity to start clean. Literally. Clean, green energy, an investment in related innovation, abolition of the 1% in support of income inequality, and true economic prosperity for all. Clean government, free of cronyism. As Lieber contemplates his education in political science and philosophy, he remains optimistic, with a decidedly fuck it spin. What worked for past generations no longer works, and hasn't for some time. It's destroying people and destroying the planet. I love people. Looking at them, talking to them, being with them, smiles Lieber. Where philosophy helps him get inside people's heads, political science helps Lieber understand how they work. It's the application of the information. And while he may not have the American dream to speak of, and certainly has company in that sentiment, he does want to see change. He questions and questions and questions again, and advises others to do the same. It's just the way it is no longer acceptable. I want to see change, reiterates Lieber. I want to see people stop being so miserable.
A special thank you to Susan Karstensen, Zocalo Coffee House, Whistle Pig Korean, The State of Montana, Ben Johnson Photography, Loken Productions, Superfluous Industries, and Blunderbuss.
A shout out to our editors and media team, Pat Loken, Jessup Sandoval, Allison Gregory, Shannon Hughes, Jessica Byerly, Jacob Desch, Nathaniel Johns, and Nicholas Hill. Do you have an issue that's riddled by gridlock in your community? We want to hear from you. Shoot me a message at tate@iaminterchange.org. That's tate@iaminterchange.org. Until next time, share airtime and don't ruin dinner.